You know that feeling, right? You're talking about needing new running shoes, and then bam, moments later, the perfect pair pops up in an ad. It feels like magic, or, maybe like your phone is listening in. But the reality is actually way more complex. It's one of the fastest, most sophisticated markets on the entire planet. And it's happening invisibly, all around you, every single second. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this thing actually works. It really all boils down to this one simple question. In that tiny, tiny fraction of a second before the article or the video you actually want to see even appears, a lightning-fast war is being fought for your attention. And if you can understand this invisible battle, you can understand the entire modern internet.
So, what is this war? Well, it's basically an auction. But this isn't just any old auction. It is an absolute technological marvel of speed and scale that happens every single time you load a web page.
Okay, get this. The entire auction happens in just 100 milliseconds. That is literally faster than you can blink. In that instant, an ad space is offered up, thousands of companies place their bids, and a winner is chosen. All in the blink of an eye. So how on earth does that happen so fast? Well, it breaks down into these 5 basic steps. First, you click a link. The publisher, that's the website you're visiting, instantly sends out a bid request. It's an alert that basically says, hey, I've got a visitor here and an empty ad slot. Any takers? Then all these automated platforms representing thousands of brands place their bids in real time. An auction picks the highest bidder, and boom, the winning ad gets zapped onto your screen right as the page is finishing its load. Let's quickly meet the key players in this crazy fast ecosystem. So you've got the publisher, right? Like a news site. They use something called a supply-side platform, or an SSP, to manage and sell their ad space. That space gets sold in a marketplace called an ad exchange. Now, on the other side, you have the advertiser, that running shoe company. They use what's called a demand-side platform, or a DSP, to find and buy the right ad space for their target audience. All these guys interact in that 100 millisecond window. It's wild. Okay, so it's not enough to just win the auction. Advertisers have to win it at the right price. And for years, the rules of this game were pretty straightforward. But then a major shift came along and completely changed the strategy for everyone. So, the industry used to run on what's called second price auctions. It works like this. If you bid, say, $10, and the next highest bid was $8, you'd win, but you'd only pay $8.01. Simple enough. But around 2019, the entire system flipped to a first price auction. Now, if you bid $10, you pay $10, period. This created a huge new problem for advertisers. How do you possibly win without massively overpaying? Well, the answer is a really clever piece of tech called bid shading. It uses these powerful machine learning algorithms that analyze millions and millions of past auctions to predict the likely winning price for any given ad slot. So instead of just blindly bidding their max of $10, an advertiser's algorithm might predict the auction will probably clear at, say, $8.50, and it'll bid just that amount, saving them a nice chunk of change. And the impact here is enormous. I mean, we're talking big money. A well-built bid shading model can save an advertiser anywhere from 15 to 30% on their total ad spend. In this high-speed game, it's not just about winning anymore. It's about winning efficiently, down to the very last fraction of a cent. Right, so just as the industry was perfecting these incredible high-speed auctions, the very foundation they were all built on just started to crumble. And this brings us to the Great Cookie Crisis. For 20 years, the third-party cookie was absolutely everything. It was the universal loyalty card of the internet. It was what allowed advertisers to recognize you as you moved from site to site, which enabled everything from ad targeting to even just measuring if an ad actually worked. It was the glue holding this entire system together. And then, bam! In 2020, Google announced it was getting rid of third-party cookies in Chrome, which happens to be the world's most popular browser. What followed was just years of absolute chaos. The deadline was delayed, and then it was delayed again. At one point, Google completely reversed course, only to later announce it was scrapping its own proposed cookie replacements. It was just a mess. And this quote, I think, just says it all. The entire digital world spent half a decade and literally billions of dollars preparing for a future that, in the end, didn't even arrive as anyone expected. The result today is this messy, fragmented landscape where some browsers block cookies and others don't. So what now? If that universal loyalty card is basically broken, how do advertisers know who they're even talking to anymore? Well, this chaos has led to a total explosion of new and competing identity solutions. Here's the thing. There's no single replacement for the cookie. Instead, we have this mix of new approaches. You have what are called deterministic solutions, which use info you willingly provide, like your email when you log into a site, to create a secure, anonymous ID. They're super accurate, but they only work when you're logged in. Then you have probabilistic solutions, which are more like a really good educated guess. They piece together clues like your IP address and device type to create a probable ID, but it's not always a sure thing. To cope with all this, we're also seeing the rise of data clean rooms. The best way to think of these is like a neutral digital Switzerland. An advertiser and a publisher can both put their data into this clean room to find matching audiences. But here's the key. Neither side ever gets to see the other's raw private user data. It's a way to collaborate that's actually safe for privacy.
But all this complexity, all this new tech, it comes at a cost, a big one. For every single dollar an advertiser spends, studies show that only about 36 cents actually makes it to the publisher. The person who made the content in the first place. The other 64%, it's kind of like a tech tax, just eaten up by all the platforms, data providers, and middlemen in this long chain.
Which brings us finally to the future. Now that the whole cookie crisis is settling into this weird new normal, a few key battlegrounds are emerging that are going to define the next decade of advertising. So what's next? Well, you should really be watching 3 key areas. First up is retail media. Think of retailers like Amazon and Walmart becoming their own ad giants using all their shopping data. Second is connected TV, or CTV. Ad money is just flooding away from traditional TV and into streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. And finally, the most futuristic idea, Agentic AI. We're talking about autonomous AI agents, not humans, that could one day manage entire ad campaigns all by themselves. And just look at retail media, for example. Amazon's ad business is now worth over $50 billion a year. That makes it a bigger ad platform than YouTube. And why? It's simple. In a world without cookies, knowing what people actually buy is the ultimate data advantage. That is the new gold. So as this invisible world gets faster and smarter and more integrated into every part of our lives, it leaves us with a really critical question. In this multi-billion-dollar war for our attention, fought in milliseconds, who is the real winner? Is it us, the consumers who get a free internet? Is it the brands that are making sales? Or is it the handful of massive platforms that built the battlefield in the first place and now get to set all the rules? That right there is the trillion-dollar question that will define the future of the web.